why does the UAE or the MENA region need a tabby for rent? To simplify for our audience, right? Why do we need rent now, pay later? And how does it tie into financial services and, broader property management? How do you put these kind of things together?
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, I'll take you back to when we were identifying some of the problems. And,
right.
And like I said, as finance people, we see numbers,
yeah.
right? And for us, we started looking at some key elements in the market that didn't make sense to us. One of the first things that didn't make sense to us was the fact that your biggest expense as a human being, as a person living in Dubai today, which is rent,
yeah.
it takes up the largest component of a household's income. Its biggest part of their expenditure is still paid like the Stone Ages. You write paper checks and you write PDCs going forward and so on, and you give it to the landlord, and the landlord holds on to these pieces of paper and goes to the bank and deposits them and has to remember to deposit them on time and has to make sure that everything on that piece of paper is accurate, and then having to deal with bounce checks because of any number of reasons. Super inefficient, super unfriendly, etc. And it's always been one of the key things that we've looked at as a problem.
Right.
There's tens of billions of dollars of annual rent being paid that way in Dubai today.
Right.
In Dubai alone, I'm not even talking UAE, and I'm only talking residential. I'm not even talking commercial, retail, etc. Pure Dubai residential rental payment, tens of billions of dollars being paid by these PDCs. No consumer in Dubai has a checkbook for any other reason than to pay rent. Yeah. They. How do you buy everything else in your life? You do it digitally. You do it by card. You do it via digital solutions, etc. So that in itself needed a deeper dive. And then the nature of way rent is paid over here is that because landlords wanted a degree of security about the payments in the future, they asked you for a PDC, and they do not want to handle 12 PDCs, right? There's no interest in handling 12 PDCs where you need to remember to deposit every month, and then you need to follow up on the payment for any other reason with the tenant on a monthly basis. No, I'll accept less. I'll accept less for fewer payments.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
And you see it across the market. If you're paying in one, you're paying a smaller amount than if you're paying
discount.
In two, and if you're paying in four, right? And there isn't much beyond 4 payments in Dubai. Around 90% of rental payments in Dubai. And we did the statistics. We went and we compiled data from thousands of properties under management, took them through a 3-year, 4-year history, through multiple cycles to assess exactly what rents look like in Dubai. And we found out, and it's from personal experience, of course. But we wanted to create a bigger data set.
Yeah.
And you find that 90% of rents in Dubai are paid in 4 payments or less, which means as a tenant, you're always paying well in advance, sometimes a full year in advance, a lot of times in half-yearly payments, and 60% of the market pays quarterly.
Yeah.
Right? So you pay 3 months in advance every time.
Right.
I don't know about you, but I think most people get their salaries monthly. Right? So if you're spending a part of your income, you're allocating a bit to groceries, a bit to schools, a bit to, I don't know, other consumables, some to subscriptions to your Netflix, etc. Vast majority of them are monthly expenses, right? You even think in monthly expenses. But you still have to finance your rent significantly in advance. You have to pay 3 months or 6 months of rent in advance. You have to accumulate those savings over time, or you have to go out to a bank and borrow money, or you have to tap into your savings to make these rental payments. All right. And we looked at the numbers and we said, okay, would you rather pay monthly? Like everybody said yes, of course. Would you rather pay monthly on your credit card? And like everybody raised their hands. We didn't need to do we didn't need to post the question, but we did just to get the confirmation from thousands of respondents. We knew it was going to be a yes. That's what a lot of people, expatriates also that used to live elsewhere, are used to paying monthly and are shocked by the fact that they need to put up a check significant amount in advance. But we didn't only look at the problem from the view of the tenant. We needed to understand, why is it being done that way? Why does the landlord want to receive those PDCs, and why do they still insist on that payment method? Well, the fact is, number one, most landlords in Dubai are not institutions. They don't have other payment methods. They're individuals like you and me.
Right.
65% of the market of rentals in Dubai is owned by individuals who are not merchant, who don't have a credit card machine, who don't have a commercial bank account, and the only way they can secure the rental income is by, in a recurring fashion, where they don't have to call you up and remind you to pay them every 3 months or so on, is via PDCs. Yeah. So what if there was another method that secured their future payments? Or better yet, what if there was a method to pay them all upfront, which means an inherent rental insurance?
Yeah.
Where they give up, there's no default risk anymore for that year. They've gotten it all in advance. And a present value of money component.
Very interesting, right? Like, so I was always questioning why. I get it. I get the need to secure the interests of the landlord. But my question is, like, on average, really, the occupancy rates of these properties, I don't know what they're at, but if they're between 70, 80%.
They are.
Yeah.
They're these days even started edging north of 80.
Exactly. If they're edging north of 80, it's surprising to me that they need 12 months in upfront instead of, even in the concept of like our NPL, why not 3 months, just 3 months? Because like reduces the capital burden on your side. And then the direct debit stuff happens on a monthly, you build a credit score with the same institution. And then like eventually you don't need as much insurance with certain clients. You need more insurance for certain ones that don't have as great a credit score.
Great question.
Yeah.
Our answer is we accommodate for all.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So if your preference is, and you need a degree of assurance that, you know, these recurring payments, let's say quarterly, will happen and will happen on time and are guaranteed, we'll give them to you upfront. Right.
Right.
If you're happy with the higher return on 4 payments, we'll accommodate that also.
Right.
And we price for every spread in the system. If you're happy to accept 12, great. Then we will just facilitate the 12 payments between you and the tenant.
Right.
In most cases, people want to secure that tenancy, want the access to a larger cash inflow, or want to utilize the income actually to make another investment or to pay down, service fee billing for the property or so on. We make that available. So it's a financial solution that's embedded in the property owner solution that we provide, and we leave it up to them. We price for every single variation of that.
What does that spread look like today, and what does it mean for the average renter?
So we tested the market, we tested the demand and the supply of the market, and we priced based on what the market prices, right? What the market accepts as a difference between 4 payments and 12. And the difference today for us is 6%.
Okay.
And in exchange for that 6%, we take a degree of default risk, obviously, away from the landlord, and we accept it ourselves. You got that quarter's payment, and then the tenant defaults in the next month. You don't, as a landlord, get hurt by that default. On the contrary, we've excluded you from suffering by it. Plus, we jump in and we amend it, right? Amend it by either collecting the payment and working on the collection so you don't have to follow up, or in very, very rare cases, evicting the tenant for non-payment and then replacing them. And you've had somebody take the negative out of your experience as a landlord and bring you an alternative tenant in their place. In all cases, we have implemented a good, strong, basic tenant screening functionality into the equation. We're not taking on this default risk because, just simply because we're happy taking everybody's risk. We're taking on this default risk because there is basic checks that we've done on the tenants, that you as a landlord are going to be happy accepting and bringing on board. If this tenant has been vetted by Keeper, you know that they're an income, they are generating an income, and that income is recurring, and it is significantly higher than their rental liability. If it's beyond a certain percentage, we do not accept that tenant. We do take into consideration credit status of that tenant, and then there is some qualitative elements also we take into consideration, such as if the rent is a renewal and they've paid last year's rent, well, that's obviously a positive. as opposed to a brand new tenant, for example, that just moved into the country with no credit history in the country. Doesn't mean that we reject those. Of course, there's multiple other parameters that go into the equation.
100%.
But as an owner, you would be happy with the sort of screening that we do on your behalf for the tenants that are coming on board, and you would be happy for them to pay monthly. They are able to manage their cash flows. They're not having to tap into their savings or borrow in order to pay their rent, and overall, they're not doing that because they need. They have a sort of a liquidity problem. They are salaried employees that have a recurring income that we can verify.